Ukraine cutting off financial support to the eastern region controlled by pro-Russian militants. Russia claims that could lead to more military action. Tanks and trucks have been moving around the area in the past few weeks. Now, Russia says it is afraid NATO will bring Ukraine into its fold, and it wants a guarantee that won't happen. Rick Grenell is former advisor to 4 U.S. ambassadors to the United Nations and a Fox News contributor. Rick, great to see you today.
Good to see you, Shannon.
All right, a lot of chatter, a lot of back and forth regarding Russia and Ukraine. It kind of has slipped out of the headlines, but certainly Putin may be flying under the radar, but it doesn't sound like he's leaving this alone at all.
No, I mean, it's clear that the Russians are on the offense again. Look, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is a very good politician. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's also extremely well connected in Russia. When he delivers a threat, it's real. The Russians have continued to threaten Ukraine. And let's remember the context that we're dealing with here. The Russians have gone into a country that's next to them. They've taken over a wide area of the country called Crimea. They've also helped shoot down a passenger jet, killing 298 people. For all of that, the Russians have gotten some sanctions, a couple of sector sanctions, and harsh words like what we saw at the G20 this past weekend. But that's about it, Shannon. There hasn't been action. There's been very minimal consequences for the Russians. And Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and Putin both see that there's not much, downside to actually threatening your neighbors and trying to be on the offense. So that's where we are.
Okay, so as far as NATO membership, they say they do not want Ukraine getting any closer to that possibility. And a lot of folks out there think it's not going to happen. I know that you think that Congress here should maybe make a push on that.
Well, I think we've seen the Obama administration be very weak, say a couple of harsh words, but they've been very slow on ratcheting up the sanctions. And, ratcheting up sanctions is exactly what we need to do, like with Iran. But when it comes to NATO, this is a military alliance, a commitment between countries to defend one another. We should absolutely say that Ukraine, because they've been threatened by their neighbors, we've seen Crimea taken over, we've seen a passenger jet shot down out of the sky. We should help them. They want to be a member of NATO. They're a responsible country, and we should push for that. If President Obama isn't going to do it, the new Republican Senate should put this on the agenda and try to penalize the president as much as possible so that we can get the Ukrainians into NATO. By the way, Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, has literally said this past weekend that we should be very sensitive to the Russian demands, that they don't want Ukraine as a part of NATO. And I think she's flat wrong, and somebody needs to call her out for it.
All right, let's talk about Putin's comments. Him saying, listen, we are ready to work together. We want to be partners with America on a number of fronts, but with the understanding that they respect us and stay out of our internal business. Do you think he's just, kind of stoking the fire at this point? Because we all know what that's about.
Yeah, well, we know what that's about. Let me translate for you. Let us continue to be belligerent in Eastern Europe and continue to just gather money illegally, and you should mind your own business. Look, we should send a very strong message to the Russians that this is not what a responsible country does. After all, it's been 25 years since the fall of the wall. And yet, now we're looking at 800,000 people being displaced in Ukraine because of the Russian actions here. So this is the largest European refugee situation since the Balkan Wars. This is serious. And meanwhile, we have a Western governments throughout Europe and even this administration, the Obama administration, not noticing that Russia is on the offense. It's a dangerous situation. The warning signs are there. Something worse is going to happen, and we need to watch this.
All right, super quick. We're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you, do you think this administration comes up with an effective bulwark or stop to Putin? Are they capable? Will they do it?
I hope they will. I haven't seen the evidence of that, but I think that if the Senate can push them and push John Kerry and the State Department and even Secretary Hagel, we may be able to come up with something. At least ratchet up the sanctions. The Russians listen to sanctions.
All right. Rick Grenell, always good to see you. Thanks so much.
You too, Shannon.